and welcome. My name is Livia Kohn. I'm the executive editor of Three Pines Press, and it is my great pleasure to announce the publication of a new series with a focus on time, Dao and Time. And our first volume is now available on our website, threepinespress.com, for pre-publication orders at a very reasonable discount. And the volume is called Dao and Time, Classical Philosophy, and it's the first in a series of 3 volumes that came out of an international Taoist conference on the subject of time, which was held in Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles in June of 2019, which is one of a series of conferences. We will have another international Taoist conference next summer on the subject of literature. And there's a website on this called taoistconference.info. It is my great pleasure today to welcome Dr. Robin Wang, who is professor at Loyola Marymount University and was my co-organizer of the Taoist Conference and co-sponsor of the series. Welcome, Dr. Wang.
Thank you.
Well, we're very happy to have you here today. So would you please tell our readers and viewers a little bit about yourself?
All right, thank you. I like to start to congratulate the Three Pine Press to publishing this wonderful and series on Dao and the Time. So yeah, as Livia saying, my name is Robin Wang. I actually born and raised in China, and I trained in philosophy all my life. I began in Peking University in Beijing, and actually my specialty and my interest is on Western philosophy, particular Hegel. So I was trained in the absolute spirit, that was my really interesting about. And then gradually I got a degree in the West, and then started working. Gradually, I think my interest more and more focused on the Taoist philosophy. So I feel that something I want to say, maybe I say is like Western philosophy can get you a job, then Taoist philosophy can give you a life. So that's how I really right now, my study, my publication, teaching, research, activity, all surrounded the Taoist philosophy, Taoism, and its relevance to contemporary world.
Wow, that's fascinating. I love that combination, is that you get Western philosophy because that's sort of the establishment and it gets you a job. And then with the Taoist philosophy, you really get fascinated and you have so many different aspects to look at, and you have a real fun, and you have like a very practical dimension to it also. And your latest book was on Yin and Yang. Can you talk a little bit about Yin and Yang, which is obviously also like a key issue in the study of time?
Yeah, well, I do the Yin Yang. It's basically give a comprehensive a count of Yin Yang, because Yin Yang is very, especially that a symbol, right? Half black, half white symbol. Everyone know about it, but I just a little worry whether there is a superficial and a simplistic understanding of Yin Yang. So then I give a better understanding to see what is exactly Yin Yang is about. Yin Yang, it's not about the entity, but it's the process, it's a function. And it's really best way you feel about the Yin Yang is like say time, like a day. You have day, night, alternates, so you can feel how day, yin and the yang embedded in your life. So yes, and I particularly look at the yin-yang cosmology and the yin-yang logic, and the yin-yang in the body, yin-yang strategy, and of course yin-yang images. Yeah, that's the, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Very, very good. That's fascinating. And then when we organized this conference on time, that was at your institution, so you were very active and involved in this. And so can you share a little bit with our viewers what would be some of the strongest impression you had? Like we had probably, what, 150 people there, and they were many different people. And so tell us a little bit about the conference.
Okay. At the beginning, to be honest with you, I'm very hesitant to organize a conference because it's a lot of work. It's really so come to the campus in LA, but this topic itself is really, really fascinating. And I think it's worth for the work. So one of the things I really see is the people from different walk of life. We can see some it's philosophers doing specific, conceptual work, and some is practitioners. And also you will see the people from around the world come, right? So from Mexico, from China, and also from East Europe. So then people, and then the good things about this conference is we have a common goal. Of course, one goal is to understand the Tao, but also there is a specific goal here. Goal is to understand the time, how Tao and the time connected. And this one thing, it's really interesting. This conference is really able to help everyone to get a better sense what exactly, not just the Tao, but also more important is the time. And several things I will see, because we usually think about the time and the understanding, in the West, mostly probably Joseph Needham, and in the 80s to think about how time in connection with Chinese philosophy. And since then, we see less people. It seems there is a void in there. So, and since this conference is the beginning, really filled this void, and also to create, I almost feel it's a new field. And on the other hand, why we see so? Because the time study has been constant theme in Western, we say, academic or science, literature, this field. But then they have to be in their own bubbles. And then, so now Taoist study, we are having our own field. But then this conference is able to bring these two field together, truly become interdisciplinary, and also fill this void. And especially not just this conference, but also the book after this conference. So then we have, you can see this continuity, we see the coherence of the theme to really help us to getting better to understand. And also I want to see this conference is, I see many young scholars come around the world. That's also very unique characteristics. And many people from China, and they are not just the philosophers, but from all different, I really have very strong impression, someone from doing the Taoist imageries. It's amazing. It's a young scholar. And then we can see people think about the fate, for example. There is, so of course, there's a textual readings as well. And I also see someone, from America have understand the I Ching. She brought this cards, each card beautiful made. And then for each trigram have each card. So it's just very good intellectual and personal experience.
Very good. So so at the conference, we had 3 keynote speakers. It was Paul Harris from Loyola Marymount University, who was studying slow time specifically and is really interested in gardens. And he's not a China person, but his research really related to a lot of what the Chinese do with time and how they construct gardens and put time into their artwork. And then we had Lisa Raffals from University of California at Riverside, who studied fate and chance in ancient philosophy. And her contribution, her paper is also part of this first new book. And then we had Hervé Louchouarn, who is from Mexico, who's a practitioner, Taoist, ordained Taoist priest and medicine healer. And he talked about time in Taoist cultivation and Chinese medicine. And so we will have those 3 volumes on philosophy, on the role of time in Taoist practice, and the comparative dimension. And so in this particular volume on philosophy, which is now available on our website for pre-publication purchase, and we do have quite a group of, as Dr. Wang said, young scholars. And so maybe you want to talk a little bit about more how the role of Chinese scholars has changed and how they are making an impact in this context.
Yeah, I just want to quickly to see these 3 keynote speakers at the conference, just do a little bit follow up. So Lisa Raffo is expert in this comparison between Greek philosophy and the Chinese philosophy. So it's really, she represents a certain type of, the way, certain kind of approach to understand the philosophy. So she gave very beautiful keynote speaker. Now, Paul Harris is actually English professor, but yet he was president of International Association of Time. And so he's very interested about the time, and also he also liked to know more about the Taoist view of time. I actually co-teach classes with him. He have one thing, he particularly interested in the stone, right? He think a rock has this observing force, it's a transformation. When we co-teaching class, he asked all the students surrounding their iPhone and pick up rocks called phone for rocks. So it's a very interesting way to think about how we're dealing with reality, the sense of time. And also our keynote speaker from Mexico, he's a fascinating person. They make a calendar, okay, with each calendar, and then they put on each day and then have each activity. So this really shows something. Time in Chinese context, in Taoist perspective, is not abstract, abstract things or framework, but it's concrete, it's fully context, it's concrete, it's the core of activities. So every day you engage in activity based on the time, what to eat, when to eat, the seasons, rhythms. So all these things, it's very great. There is so much, so rich content in this thing. Now about the Chinese scholars, I really impressed by this Chinese scholar. One of the things I think, especially also this time book, this series of book, to really bring our English scholarship to another level. Because think about these Chinese scholars, they are young, they are bilingual, they have a conceptual tool, linguistic tool to doing the scholarship or to engage the practice. Usually we think about understand the Taoist material, you either through the translations, right? So, and then for Chinese scholars, they can read their Chinese material, but they don't know the English. So there is no communication going on, no two-way communication. All the two-way communication is lost in translation. But this new group of Chinese scholars, they can have direct access to primary text, understand that too. Lots of them have been trained in Western institution, but even some of them hasn't trained, but they study English in the age 5, so they are bilingual, so they're able to communicate this idea, whether they are fundings, in English, not just in Chinese now. So this group are very impressive. So they bring out a very good scholarship and help us deep understand appreciation of Tao.
Very good. Yeah, so this new volume has a total of 11 contributions, and a good half of them are by young Chinese scholars who, as Dr. Wang was saying, have direct access to the original materials and also the ability to communicate well in English, and many of whom have also been trained in Western philosophy. So we do have a very strong dimension, not so much of direct comparison, but of a very well-informed presentation. So we don't just float around in only China. We really have a very international makeup of our contributors. And then we have that supplemented with several senior scholars, such as Robert Allenson and David Pankanier from Bethlehem Lehigh University, and Lisa Raffals, who we mentioned before, who are seniors in the field and who bring their very powerful expertise to bear. So the volume is a very rich volume. It is very powerful, and it is available at this time for pre-publication on our website. Yes, would you like another word?
No, I do want to say one about the young scholar. I want to say young scholar is not just from China. Of course, that's one thing, but also young scholar from English-speaking world, right? So, for example, some like we have Sharon Small.
Wow.
The actress is brilliant, and then she studied in China. She has wonderful a Chinese ability, so she can directly get into the primary text. And then David Chai is a Canadian, but spent much time in China, currently working in Hong Kong. So you can see the cross fertilization, but this is really wonderful. You see this new young generation coming up, and they're so equipped with linguistic tools and the trainings, and then they have more open-minded, and they are in many ways well-balanced. So then they really contribute a great deal to this the Dao and Time series.
Yes, thank you so much. So the volume is available for pre-publication purchase at discount on our website, freepinespress.com. And thank you very much, Dr. Wang.
Oh, thank you for having me. Go get the book.